This is going to be sort of a different video of mine. If you follow me on Twitter, then you've heard some word of the Stalker that I had back in high school. I had made an announcement there that I'd be sharing my story on Rain and I's stream that happened a couple of weeks ago, and for those of you that missed it, I'd like to share this story with all of you here. Some points to note before we begin are that my name is Ryan, for those of you who don't know. Also, the Stalker and myself went to two completely different high schools, and lastly, yes, I had no knowledge of any of this occurring. Also, as a disclaimer, no, this isn't clickbait like Tana, and yes, this is a 100% true story. With this being said, sit back, grab a fizzy beverage, and let's dive in. So my knowledge of the situation began back in late 2011, early 2012. I was a cashier at Chick-fil-A not far from my house. It sounds super cliche, but it was an ordinary night at work. I was working the front counter as usual, and it wasn't too crazy busy. At about 8 or so at night, two girls walked into the restaurant. One was wearing a Letterman jacket, and one wasn't. They both approached me and made their order, and if I remember correctly, it was simply 2 large sweet teas and some fries. It wasn't anything too crazy. Anyway, the way our front end was set up is we had the front counter right in front of me, tables and seating to my left, and the sweet tea container was directly behind me. Once I turned around to get their drinks, I overheard the two of them giggling and whispering to each other. Honestly, I thought that it was a little strange, but I really didn't think anything of it. I mean, come on, I work at a restaurant, this stuff happens. So I hand them their drinks, and they make their way to one of the tables over to my left, directly in view to myself. Once they finally got their order, I carried on with work as normal. I did notice, however, that they kept staring at me and giggling for the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. Still, nothing really that out of the ordinary, and it honestly didn't bother me. Anyway, they eventually leave after about half an hour of being in the restaurant, and then I forget about the situation since we started getting busier as the night went on. About 30 or so minutes after they were gone, I was outside by the back dumpster taking the trash out, and this is when I noticed a group of 4 people approaching me from across the parking lot. One of the girls in this group was the girl without the Letterman jacket. They shout to me, "Hey Ryan!" I was a little weirded out by this since they seemed too far away to be able to read my name tag. I played it cool and responded with the casual, "What's up?" They then asked, "Hey, so," random question, and don't be weirded out by this, but did you know that girl with the Letterman jacket on from earlier who you helped out? I responded, no. This was the point where they all had the exact same response. Each one of them threw their hands up in the air and exclaimed, "I knew it. I knew she was lying the entire time." I was curious here. I asked them, "What does she know about me? How does she know me, and what's going on?" They replied, "You play football, right? Number 60, and you used to be in band." Then I responded with the slow, "Yes." They were astonished. They then told me that what they were about to tell me might freak me out a bit, but to stay cool and they were going to handle it. They said this, "So this girl's been lying to us for months about you dating her. She has supposed text messages from you, alleged pictures that you've sent her, and an excuse every single time that we ask her to bring you around. We just had to get to the bottom of this." I was still dumbfounded. However, after this, I immediately reassured them that I had no idea who she was and that this was incredibly weird. Honestly, to me at this point, it really wasn't even that scary. It was honestly just weird. Anyway, they then told me not to worry once again, and that they'll reach out to me with more info as it comes along. Still kinda weirded out, I wished them a good night, and they went on their way, and I went back to work to finish my shift. Fast forward to that night once I got home, and I received a message on Facebook. It was the girl from Chick-fil-A that came into the store with my stalker, and as we can see here, she was filling me in on the backstory of the situation. She claimed, "We were working at the fireworks stand by there, and we were just sitting there hungry. So I was like, hey, let's go get some Chick-fil-A. Then she was like, hopefully Ryan is working today so we can get some free food." Footnote: no, she did not get free food. Anyway, she then claimed, "A lot of people kind of know that y'all aren't really dating, but we all still play along with it. So we walk in, and I kind of recognize you because she has pictures of you and is always showing people. So I was like, this looks like Ryan, and your name tag said Ryan, and I was like, F, this is her fake boyfriend. So I order my food and I look over at her and she's all nervous and stuff, but I pretend like I didn't recognize you or anything because I didn't want to put her on the spot and be like, is that Ryan? So whatever, we eat and she keeps looking over at you and is all nervous because she doesn't want me to recognize you. When we leave and get back to the firework place, she's like, so did you see that guy with the yellow Santa hat? Anyway, I was like, no, I don't know who you're talking about. She then described you more and she was like, that was Ryan. And I pretended to be all shocked and was like, what? Why didn't you tell me? And she was like, because I didn't want you to talk to him or anything. In my head, I was like, this crazy ass bitch. I then asked her why she didn't talk to you, and she was like, I did. I asked him for a refill. So after this, she then wrapped up our conversation for that night. I kept insisting that she would add me on Facebook so the girl would know that we're on to her. However, she refused. She didn't want to ruin her friendship with her since apparently they're good friends. I thought it was strange, but whatever. She was helping me out. Jumping ahead, I'm going to give you some background for this next segment real fast. In Texas and throughout the South, guys do this thing during homecoming where we create a wearable floral arrangement for our homecoming dates called a mum. In return, the girls create a wearable garter that we wear on our arms. Both the mum and the garter are generally in school colors with our names on both, essentially signifying the fact that we are official dates. Anyway, this girl then reaches out to me once more. She claims this. One more thing. She even had a homecoming mum with your school colors. She wore it to school and she said she went to your homecoming. Good lord, are you serious? I responded. Yep, there's pictures. Do you want to see one? And then she showed me this. Are those your school colors? I was shocked. She said she went with me? I asked. Essentially, she told me that I allegedly asked her to my homecoming and that she ended up not going because I was, quote, too busy. It was incredibly strange. Jumping forward once more, I want to give some background for this next segment as well. My neighborhood is one with a few retention ponds scattered throughout, and I also don't have a neighbor on one side. Remember this. Well, the other two girls wanted to be the ones to tell you this, so they'll probably message you and tell you, but I was the one that was actually in the car when this happened. Today, we were on our way to the fireworks stand and she was driving me. She started talking about you, so I was just curious and I asked her where you live because I wanted to see if she knew this too. She was like, well, we can drive by there so I can show you. In my head, I was just thinking she was going to drive in a random neighborhood and say that was your house, but I'm scared to tell you this. She drove into this neighborhood and she drove by your house. She didn't slow down or anything because there were people outside. She was like, that's his dad. And there was a little girl and boy out there, and she told me their names. At this moment, I was shocked. However, I was in much disbelief. I began to pry more information out of her. What neighborhood? I asked. I forgot the name. I wasn't paying attention, but your dad was outside playing with some kids. Anything you remember? Street names, type of car color, what's next to my house? A lake or something? I think, I'm not sure. I was kind of shocked at the moment, so I wasn't really paying attention to surrounding stuff. She drove by so fast that I didn't catch much. I think I saw you in the garage, but I'm not sure if that was you because you had your back turned. I was super skeptical here, and I think the disbelief I was experiencing was causing this. Playing it cool, I laughed and proclaimed that she totally made it up. She then said something that shocked me. Whew, I was hoping she didn't know because that would be going way too far. I just remember a lake and you didn't have a neighbor on one side, I think. I froze. None of this actually hit home until I realized the fact that she did, indeed, visit my house. Somehow, some way, she knew where I lived and probably regularly drove by my house. I then tell her, oh my god, you drove past my house. And she responds, How did she figure out where you lived? I don't understand. I'm starting to think she knows someone that you might know because I don't see how she can figure this out. After freaking out for a little bit, she began to calm me down, saying that she heard that her and I were having, quote, problems. This was also the first mention of another guy's name, whom I'm assuming was her next potential victim of this, or another concurrent one entirely. I didn't go to the same school as her, so I didn't know who this guy was. To close this segment, she reached out to me once more a couple of weeks later and said, "Hey, so she came up to me the next day and was like, me and Ryan are having some serious problems because all these girls are calling me. I'm gonna break up with him." Footnote: it's party time. Anyway, she then congratulated me for making it through this, and she knew that it would be hard for me to get over her. Ha ha. Funny. And honestly, that was the last I heard of this situation. There was one instance where she came through the Chick-fil-A drive-thru while I was working the window, and as you might expect, she acted as if she had never met me in her life. It was the funniest, most awkward moment ever. There is one last thing though that I want to share with you in regards to this story, and I think it's super strange. So this past year was my senior year in college. I had a class with this one guy named Albert. He was a really cool dude, and him and I worked on labs and projects together. Before this class, we had never met before in our lives, and our friendship began entirely from scratch. Anyway, I graduated at the end of the semester this past May, and we went our separate ways. Back in July, I was bored one night, so I was going through old Facebook message requests, and I came across a message from him from 2012, back during this entire situation. I was floored. My now friend messaged me over 5 years ago to ask me questions about the situation and to get the facts straight, and I had never seen it until this year. I immediately took a screenshot of this and sent it to him, in which he was just as shocked as I was. My, what a funny conversation that was. Something does tell me though that she's out there watching, however. My girlfriend asked me for her name a couple of weeks ago, since of course she knew of this story, and once I reminded her of the name, she told me that she thinks that she received an accidental friend request from my stalker. The request popped up on her phone, but was gone when she opened the app. It is rather strange. Anyway, this was my story, 100% from myself and what I experienced back during my senior year in high school. If it wasn't creepy enough for you, then I apologize. However, I just wanted to go off the rails here and share this story with anyone who finds stalkers particularly creepy. They can really happen to anyone, and I never would have thought that it would have happened to me until it happened. I still do not know how she found my address and faked this for so long. It truly baffles me. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this. As always, do keep suggesting content to me. I need something super creepy to analyze next. Lastly, thanks once again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. I love you all, and as always, good night.